President Trump is making a tour of countries in the Middle East. He faced questions about a proposal for the U.S. to accept a jet from Qatar that could eventually be the new Air Force One.
I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. But I thought it was a great gesture.
Ahead of the trip, the president doubled down on defending plans to possibly use a luxury jet donated by Qatar, calling it a gift to the Defense Department. This would actually violate foreign clauses, and it raises significant security risks. So we want to bring in constitutional lawyer from Loyola Marymount, Jessica Levinson. Jessica, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Good to be here.
So you're going to dive into the law piece of this, because I think there's also a security piece of this. But from a law standpoint, accepting a gift from a foreign government, what does the law say can and cannot happen here?
So we have to go all the way back to the Constitution and look at something called the Foreign Emoluments Clause. And that clause in general, I'm going to paraphrase, says that certain people in the federal government, like officers of the government, should not receive titles and presents and gifts from foreign governments. And the idea is that we don't want any federal officials to be beholden to or subject to undue influence by a foreign government. We want them to serve us, not others. But I have to say that we've never tested that clause. So number one, there's some small question as to whether or not it actually applies to the president, because it doesn't specifically use the name the president. It says offices. And then there's a question as to whether or not this would be qualified as a gift to President Trump, or, as you just mentioned, to the Defense Department. The Trump administration is arguing there's no issue here. It's a present to the Defense Department. And then there's this question, even if it is for the Defense Department, because it will eventually go to the Trump library, does that mean it's a personal gift? All of which is to say, I know everybody wants a yes or no, and I think it's not quite that clear cut.
Yeah, it seems like you could argue it in whichever way you wanted to argue it. Okay, so that probably falls in the president's favor. What about the security risk here with accepting that gift from the Qatar royal family?
Yeah, I actually want to be clear that if my explanation indicated that this does fall in the president's favor, I don't think that's the case. I think if you look at the Foreign Emoluments Clause, what we have is a clause that just hasn't been tested. We've never had a president try and accept this kind of gift. In addition to the constitutional clauses, there are also federal statutes at play dealing with how you disclose a gift, where a gift needs to be kept. And what we also should remember is that if Congress blesses this, then it certainly is okay. In terms of the security risk, obviously, as you said, separate from the legal questions, but when it comes to Air Force One and all the sensitive conversations and materials and discussions that occur on Air Force One and all the high-ranking officials, obviously, security is of the utmost concern. And I think that's why typically we've always had Air Force One be manufactured in this country.
Well, I mean, you just think about the security implications of needing to refuel. This plane doesn't do that. You know, missile defense systems not on it. So if the president does go ahead and accept this, is there recourse for breaking the law? I know, you know, as you just mentioned, Congress can step in here and kind of oversee things. But what do you actually see playing out with this?
Yes. So, of course, I think the first question is this actually breaking the law? So again, we have to look back and interpret the Constitution, interpret the statutes, determine if this is a personal gift. But is there recourse? I mean, then we get into this question
President Trump has
does somebody have standing to sue? And if you bring a case, would a judge say, sorry, this is improper? And then what would the remedy be? Would the remedy be unwinding the transaction, apparently, you know, giving the plane back and or saying we can't use that?
All right. So many more questions than answers, but I think you've laid out, Jessica, how complicated this is. Thank you so much for explaining that to us.